This is Small Biz Florida, the podcast designed and produced specifically for Florida small business owners and entrepreneurs. Small Biz Florida, talk that works for Florida. This podcast is supported by the Florida SBDC Network, providing the tools, strategies, and expertise to help Florida's business community thrive. Visit the Florida SBDC online at www.floridasbdc.org or contact your local office and get started on your path to success today.
This is Small Biz Florida, the podcast and broadcast that's all things business across the state of Florida. I am Tom Kinnard, your host for Small Biz Florida. And if you've been tuning in lately, you know that Small Biz Florida spent some time in Tallahassee. On the road. We were up there celebrating SBDC days and Capital Days in Tallahassee. And so we're all set up with our little podcast booth and we're doing some interviews. And lo and behold, we always see friends and neighbors and small business owners and operators from our hometown, which is the Treasure Coast. And we did happen to run into one of those small business owners in Tallahassee. It is Brooke Malone, who she and her husband are the founders and owners and operators of Walking Tree Brewery, one of the most popular craft brew establishments along the Treasure Coast. And so Brooke grabbed me and said, "What are you doing up here in Tallahassee?" We had a quick conversation and I asked her what she was doing in Tallahassee. And so I said, you know what, we need to have a conversation on Small Biz Florida, interesting issues going on with craft brew establishments. So Brooke, thank you for taking time out and spending it here with us on Small Biz Florida.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So you and your husband, Mike, opened Walking Tree Brewery in Vero Beach, Florida. I think you said about 7 years ago in 2016. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Us and a couple of strategic partners helped us get that off the ground and running.
I have been to Walking Tree Brewery, incredible place, incredible product. So, yes, we appreciate all that you have done in our region. So talk to us, just as we always do. Start us with a little bit of your history pathway for you and Mike to Walking Tree Brewery.
So the short kind of canned version that I find myself saying pretty regularly is we took something that was a hobby and started competing with it in statewide and some national homebrew competitions, started winning enough that realized that this could be a thing. It was the perfect time for the state of Florida. There were less than 50 craft breweries open in the state at that point. There was a hole in the market. The one thing that Mike and I lacked was the immense amount of capital to get something like this off the road. So we went out and found some strategic partners that believed in what we were doing and found the most amazing 1945 it's a retired naval aviation supply house, beautiful structure we rescued, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of volunteer community support helped us get that thing renovated and opened. And here we are now, sticking to our business plan and growing, getting ready for our first major expansion.
I like it. You say business plan. Yes, very important. I love your recognition of the importance of the business plan. Brooke, it really is an incredible facility too. I was stunned when I walked in that facility. It is beautiful, and again, those of us who appreciate historic structures appreciate what you and Mike did in getting that structure restored and reopened. Now, Brooke, you also serve as president of the Florida Brewers Guild. Give us just kind of a high level, look at the craft brew industry in the state of Florida.
So I was fortunate enough to get elected to the board 2 years ago. I consider myself kind of a new kid on the block. Got to know a lot of really cool people that have been in the business longer than I have, and learned a lot and really just kind of hopped in there. I find it very difficult to say no when it comes to, hey, we need help. Do you want to help? So I found myself wading, chest deep into the world of craft beer in this state. And as I said before, when we first opened, there were only about 50, give or take, craft breweries in this state. And now we've got almost 450. So
Wow.
it is, it's just a neat industry to be a part of. Really neat people, very independent thinkers, a little bit rogue. They're in this because they want to do something outside of being bound by an office, still being creative, and something that has an incredibly large social network.
Yeah. Now, I know on the Treasure Coast, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think on the Treasure Coast, a majority of the craft brew establishments kind of came together and formed like a trail, the trail of craft brew establishments across the Treasure Coast. Is there such a thing across Florida? Does your website kind of list all the craft brew establishments across the state of Florida? If I happen to go to a little community and looking for the local flavor, can I find those establishments?
Yeah, so if you go onto the Florida Brewers Guild website, you can see who members are and where they're at. Of course, they have to be members. Not all craft breweries are members of the Guild. We're working on that. But yes, absolutely. We do have a local wine and ale trail here in the Treasure Coast, and a lot of regions have independently. The statewide ones seem to be done by private organizations and never really seem to kind of take off. But the Guild doesn't necessarily support a program like those trails are about giveaways and go and get your stamps at all those places.
Right.
We're there to do broad support primarily for the business, to give them the resources that they need, to give them collaborative workspaces, to help answer questions. We do a lot of helping to figure out and navigating very difficult and kind of confusing laws. Again, a really young industry.
Right.
Laws placed since the 30s, and this industry has gone from 0 to 100 miles an hour in the last couple of years. The laws are just starting to catch up with us.
And I have to think too, when I look at the craft brew establishments that I'm familiar with, the ones around the Treasure Coast, yours, Walking Tree, and others, I can't help but think of again the entrepreneurial skill sets that it takes to start, and just you said it. I mean, we had to go find funding. We had to find strategic partners. We had to restore a building. I mean, now you're involved in contracting and construction and design and architecture. I mean, really takes a pretty savvy entrepreneur, small business owner to really be in this field. It all of you that have pulled this off, it's impressive because really it's well, I mean, you really do. You're having to leverage all kinds of disciplines and skill sets to open, own, and operate one of these types of establishments. And again, how valuable and meaningful it is to the community. I think about the establishment that's in Fort Pierce. I mean, it's downtown, and they restored a building that had been vacant for years in the heart of downtown. And so, really, I mean, really an important niche small business operation for the entire state of Florida.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about, you and I ran into each other in the halls of Tallahassee, and we quickly spoke. You were like everyone who's in Tallahassee. You were on the move, making the rounds. So we quickly talked some issues, some interesting issues, as you said, you're working on for the craft brew industry in the state of Florida. Just again, give us kind of a high level. What are those issues that you're trying to address through legislature, with the state of Florida?
The beer industry is governed on multiple levels, both on the federal level and on the state level, and on the business regulation side. We are one of we are the highest taxed product in the nation. And they're in more than liquor and wine. We are one of the most restricted industries in the nation. And this stuff goes back, almost 100 years to laws that come back from Prohibition. So we had 4 major key points that we were working on and advocating for. A couple of them are really simple. We were looking for a reduction in our registration fees and our licensing fees, which are about 5 to 6 times more than the beer and wine industry, or the liquor and wine industry. We were looking for a something called a brand registration fix, which is actually headed to the Senate floor right now. It's passed its way through pretty much unanimously, so that's good. The brand registration is a fee that we pay to the DBPR, $30 for every time we change a flavor, and that's really inherently about the large macro breweries. When you're looking at the large guys that are making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of barrels a year, they really only put out 2 or 3 brands, maybe 4 or 5 brands of beer. So they pay their registration fee for each brand. When a small craft brewery takes their beer and they might take 1 barrel and dose it with peaches, and this one might get cinnamon, this one might get carrot, they add flavorings. Every single one of those came with a fee, and it really impacted the creativity and the profits, because sometimes they're only doing 1 small batch of it.
Right.
So that's passed. And then we have some larger issues, which are crossing over some franchise reform things, and those are laws that have been in place since the distributor was a small business, and it was actually designed to protect the distributor when there were tons of them and they were tiny businesses. And
right.
Now we're here 100 years later, and distributors are no longer tiny businesses, and there's no longer hundreds of them. They're very, very large, and we're the tiny guy. So the roles have reversed. So we're looking at ways to kind of free up the ability to have a free market between distributor and craft beer producer, to be able to negotiate terms a little more for our product, have a little more control over where it goes, and the demands that are made on us, because right now we really don't. So.
Right. And I guess I'm going to assume, and you can certainly tell us, but as we spoke, now you have 450 plus or minus breweries across the state of Florida. I mean, this is a big part of Florida's hospitality and tourism industry. I'm assuming you are well received by political leadership. They see the value that craft brew brings to the state of Florida. Is that a true or fair statement?
Absolutely. We are producing millions and millions and millions of dollars in economic impact. And absolutely, our lobbyist that we work up with in Tallahassee has got a handful of other gigs that he does that all of the legislators know him, and they're relatively boring by and large, insurance and hospitals. Right. And whatnot. But when he brings the Brewers into town, everyone gets excited to see it.
Right. Well, again, it is. It was an interesting conversation that we had quickly in the hallways. But when you told me what was going on, I thought, wow, that it is, because you don't think of these things. You look at your local craft brew house and you think, man, what a great place, what a great addition to our community, and rehab this beautiful building. But we don't think of all those big. And again, those of us in small business should always know that there's always issues behind what we see on the facade of a small business owner and operator. There's always issues that you're dealing with, regulatory and issues, and of course capital access issues and management and HR issues. So I shouldn't have been surprised when you said, well, we're up here working on some legislation. So again, we appreciate your service as the president of the Florida Brewers Guild in representing what really, again, is an important niche industry for the state of Florida, and an important small business operation. So you did talk about this is you're kind of celebrating your 7th seventh year in business here along the Treasure Coast. Do you guys do anything to kind of celebrate the annual event every year?
Yeah, we throw the biggest block party of the year.
I like it. I like it. Well, talk to us a little bit about when is it? Where is it?
So this year it will be on July 15th. It is at Walking Tree. We shut down the street. We kind of change and shake things up every year and try and do things a little bit differently every year, just to kind of keep it fresh and fun. But we always have a music lineup that goes all day long. So you can come and hang out and see great live bands. We're going to be starting this year at 2 p.m. Just like we have for the last few years. It pretty much rolls all day. We're going to have a number of we're kind of dialing down some of the final details, but it looks like we're going to be throwing kind of a big street fair. So tons of vendors and just silly things to do and places to go shop from indie vendors and little kind of mini experiences. And if I judge it right, I'm thinking I can probably get about 70 on the property. So it'll be fun.
Nice. Well, Brooke, again, we appreciate the effort, the risk that you and Mike took on to start and create a small business operation. Again, I can't say enough about entrepreneurs who are creative, who are innovative, and take on that risk because this is not easy. I know, having been a small business owner and operator myself, this is a daily obligation on behalf of owners and operators to keep a small business open and running and profitable. So we appreciate your commitment to the small business community here around the Treasure Coast, and we certainly appreciate your role representing small business across the state of Florida.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yep. So anything else we need to know about craft brew across the state of Florida? Positive things in Tallahassee, positive growth for the industry?
I would say that the most important thing for anyone who's doing anything in a craft industry, whether it is a craft business from making soap to making food, bread, coffee shops, or right down to your local brewery. They pour their blood, sweat, and tears. They put their whole heart into it. It is an art form. And if they've been around for a little while, they're obviously doing something well. They need your support. They need you to believe in the product. It comes from a place of care. And they appreciate, as they should, every single customer that walks through the door.
Excellent advice. We appreciate that. It is Brooke Malone, the founder, owner, and operator, along with her husband, Mike, of Walking Tree Brewery, located in Vero Beach along the Treasure Coast. Brooke also serves as the president of the Florida Brewers Guild. Again, Brooke, thanks for your time today, and thanks for your work with small business across the state of Florida.
Thank you very much, and good luck with all you're doing.
Thank you. And with that, we'll bring to close this segment of Small Biz Florida. I am Tom Kinnard, your host for Small Biz Florida. We will talk to you next time.
This has been Small Biz Florida, created and produced by the Florida Small Business Development Center at Indian River State College. Your host for Small Biz Florida is Tom Kindred. Partners for Small Biz Florida include WPSL and WSTU and Indian River State College, named the 2019 winner of the Aspen Prize for Community College Excellence.